You waiting for us? Alright. So, we'll spend this evening, but nonetheless, let's go around. This way. Brian? I'm sorry, we're doing attendance for the audio recording. We've got Brian, Deb, Shelley, Paul, Kelly, Evan, Nina, Eddie, Jen, and myself. So for tonight, we've got Kelly back. Yay. He's drafted some things for us to go through. Yay. And Kelly and I are not able to get together to do feedback from the meeting.
Yeah, sorry, I've been completely swamped.
Okay, so we still need to do that. Oh, thanks. That's right. I know we have some actual things that I don't think are gonna make sense to go today. Anne had them, she's not here. They were related to transition, so let's table this for now and back up to section Article 8. To go through that, that's the right one. Minutes.
Oh, yeah, minutes. All this year. It's like 5, 9 minutes? Yeah.
It was very light, like it was very lively people. I mean,
More interesting some checks. No, we're gonna this as well, so the night for the last minutes. Did everyone get a chance to read them?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I move to approve the minutes from May 9th.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained?
This is awesome, we get to do this, Pam's not here. First thing,
She actually, when she texted, she said that she apologized to everybody for not being here to hold things up. But that she'll be back next week.
So actually, before we hit Article 8,
Yes.
let me see what I can do about finishing up Article 7. So if you recall, that's administrative departments. We've green fonted a lot of stuff, except for we wanted a director of safety. Shelley was really awesome and sent me some language that she pulled together from several different places. This is what I pieced together. Hope springs eternal, so I'm hoping that we can read through this over the next 5 or 10 minutes and maybe get it approved.
looks great to me. I'll read it right now.
Wonderful. Would you read it first?
Qualifications, director of safety shall have the experience, training, and knowledge, which shall qualify them in the opinion of the administrator for appointment to that office. Duties, the director of safety shall be the head of the divisions of police and fire and shall make all necessary rules and regulations for the government of the Department of Public Safety and several divisions underneath it. The director of safety shall be charged with the duty of enforcing all police, health, safety, and sanitary regulations that may be prescribed by this charter, village ordinance, or the general laws of the state of Ohio. The director shall perform such other duties consistent with the office as may be required by this charter, by village ordinance, or as directed by the administrator. So that's what I drafted because I was pulling a lot of it from other charters. For example, I was kind of combining stuff from the city of Kent and Hilliard.
The last two paragraphs seem redundant.
The first one is specific, the second one is the catch-all. You said the last two. So I was responding to first statement.
Well, it says
Mine-
perform such other duties.
Right.
And then
Consistent
why
So-
we had that in there.
as compared to only the specified one.
So my issue
Oh, it says regulations.
My issue with it is that we are setting up this article. We have said that council can make whatever departments they want, but for several shall be required. required. So law, safety, engineering, we don't have to draft this section this way, or we don't have to draft the article this way, but I'm concerned that we are mandating too many levels to this flow chart. So look, I copy pasted this, we could absolutely change the internal mechanisms of it, but the effect of this section would be, so we have an administrator that we're paying, and then that administrator is gonna be in charge of a director that we're presumably paying, and then that director is in charge of the chief of police and the chief of fire that we're presumably paying, and I just feel like we're adding too many levels here.
Not necessarily, because there's no reason why that director of safety couldn't be the chief. That's what I was gonna ask.
If that's how council, if that's how the administrator does it, okay,
But
but
somewhere in the qualifications, duties, or something for somebody, the other three, is there a sentence that said that the director can be somebody else already employed by the village? It seemed to me that, if we put something in there that they could be.
Yeah.
Hold another position with the village.
I think we did. We did do that.
There.
there's director of finance.
It was under the clerk of council section.
There was something in this article about, who could hold directorships and.
Oh, yeah, it was right there, go back, no, the bar, it was B. All. But the consent of council, the administrator may serve as the director of one or more departments.
Okay, then fine. If the administrator says that he is capable of being in charge of all the safety departments, then that's fine with me. I just didn't want us to have a flow chart that's 8 miles tall for no good reason.
I don't think that's necessary. I think this allows for it because you never know what the future brings, but it doesn't necessitate it.
For the record, I have a concern with you right now.
So for the sake of argument, I suppose specifying director of safety at all is the administrator, director of safety.
Because we don't know that the administrator can be the director of safety.
And because, well, I'm the one who did this to us, and in my opinion, we really need a director of safety. We particularly need someone over. I'm not as concerned about the police department as I am the fire department. Although I probably should be, because the police department is the department that's more likely to be sued between the two of them. So I should be concerned about it, but I'm actually far more concerned about our EMS.
That just goes in.
So what we were just looking at is to who,
Okay,
yeah.
all,
I don't have it numbered and formatted yet.
What about a catch-all statement that says one person could serve in multiple jobs?
Yeah, we already have that.
Is
So that's
that,
built in, so theoretically, the administrator can be the director of one or more departments.
Yeah.
Not theoretically, explicitly.
how about the heads? Could they be directors?
Yes. What are the heads?
I mean,
oh, like the chief of police. Okay.
So keeping it. Okay. Yes, explicitly, the administrator can go to the chief of police and say, I'd like you to just be the safety director as well, and then they can do that.
I
That
just
would
think that
certainly be allowed.
maybe a single statement to that effect at the introduction might alleviate concerns.
I mean, if I'm the only one who wants this, then get rid of it. I think we need it.
But you're basing that fact on, you think there's going to be a level between the administrator,
Right.
police, or and/or fire, right?
I want someone to take the responsibility of handling safety an all-encompassing, one package deal, right? As a professional thing, because currently, now, the police department, because the village worked at it for a long time, is, in my opinion, a very professional police department now, finally. The fire department, in my opinion, is not. And there's been no movement to try to straighten up its act. Whether it's, I'm not talking about hiring EMS people. I'm talking about.
Let me suggest something to you. Everything that you just described would, in my mind, fall under the job duties of the administrator.
Fine.
I'm okay
Get rid of
with,
it.
well, I'm okay with the section, because we've called out that it may or may not be the administrator. The administrator decides that they're not the right person here, we called out that it could be a separate person, as compared to if we don't define it, then the council has to create.
You're also creating bureaucracy. Because if the administrator is gonna fill those roles, then what is gonna have to happen is the administrator is gonna have to fill out a form saying, I'm appointing myself the director of safety.
I'm just logically thinking what would happen if I was the administrator, I would make the police chief the director of safety.
That is exactly what was in my mind when I thought of this.
But what if the police chief doesn't want to be in charge of the other stuff? Because keep in mind that we're not just talking about police. This person, as these duties are written, is going to be writing the rules for police health, safety, and sanitary regulations.
Okay.
So you're going to say that the police chief is in charge of writing sanitary
I'm just
rules?
saying, in lieu of hiring a new person, that would be the logical step, but I certainly would not want to hire a director level type position.
No,
That's my fear, is that people will read this and say, we're gonna have to pay for another person.
Yeah.
And they're gonna vote no, because we have to pay.
then get rid of it. Get rid of it. If you think that this is gonna cause people to not vote for the charter, get rid of it. And then later on, they can deal with their fire department issue. The village can deal with their
Well,
situation.
in my mind, that's what the administrator's job will be.
That's fine, then get rid of it. I'm not arguing.
Council can create if it becomes an error.
So let's, does anybody want to keep it or oppose to getting rid of that particular director?
I don't just want
I just found that, that was the only point of that.
Yeah, again, we've given council the ability to add it later.
I think the intentions are good, I just don't think it will play out that way.
Yeah, then get rid of it.
I'm gonna mark it an oddball color. So that I,
Strike her. And that-
yeah, I can do strike through.
It's probably easier.
Because I need, the reason I'm not just pressing the backspace key right now is I will need to go elsewhere in the article and eliminate the word safety from the mandated, directors. All right,
Let's
Cool.
do it.
did we ever get any farther on personnel systems? It's in blue because we had kicked the can down the road, but I just don't remember.
I got a quick question. Sorry, I need to get back.
No, no, no.
I know it's green, but the director of engineering, I'm just curious, currently, is that a position that we have now that's full-time, that we have all the time?
No.
So, right now it's contracted, we've allowed for that.
Oh, so that could be contracted
Yeah,
here too?
correct.
It's not gonna be we could go months without having a director of engineering.
We could go up.
We could go months without having that position, or,
So if you look a little farther up, directors of departments may be contracted from outside the village.
okay, so we may have a time period we don't even have that position.
We never would.
We currently have not ever, we contract with an engineering firm that the village has done forever. And when we need their services, then we
So
pay
that
for their
doesn't change, that doesn't
services.
change here.
It doesn't change it at all.
Good, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to have one all the time.
No. We don't need one.
I'm sure that was what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's not a person sitting in this building, that is a firm to contract with.
Same as law.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of, I've heard that, the very thing from somebody else saying, we're gonna hire a director of engineering, like, no, that's a contract.
Right.
It is.
It is.
We already have a village engineer.
I think that we copied and pasted originally from some other charters, and we had some questions about how to make this applicable to us, or if we had to make this applicable to us.
I was wondering if I don't have that memo, Mrs. Rutherford says on this, if someone could check that memo to have it Is this section even necessary to us? Not opposed to it, I'm just curious.
I would say it's necessary. You want, if people are gonna work for the village, for instance, you want them to know that they're gonna pay into overs.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know.
yeah, they absolutely are.
And
Okay.
if I'm going into a government job at any level, I'm gonna want to know I'm paying into overs,
Oh, yeah.
or I'm gonna consider not taking that job.
And even the volunteer EMS people, they don't pay into overs through the village, but they are covered, under the state firefighters workers' comp.
Oh.
Yeah,
We have volunteers.
I think
are they all paid?
I feel very.
And they're covered under the state's workers' comps.
So I know that this
workers'
is-
comp program.
I know this is copy paste, but it seems to be pretty generally applicable for the lit language. None of it is offensive to me. Does it actually bother anybody else? It's saying that if you're a village employee, you need to have been hired through a merit, on the basis of merit and fitness where practicable. Elected and appointed officers are exempt, and we're gonna use overs. That's all this section does. I move that we approve the draft language in section 7.09.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, the same?
You know what, I'm gonna abstain because now I'm worried that now I'm thinking, are we paying overs for our EMS people? And if we aren't, I don't want to force us
The
to.
laws of the state covering, no, this doesn't say we have to pay overs, it just says we have to follow state.
Yeah, sorry, I was speaking informally, I apologize. It basically is saying that the laws of Ohio regarding retirement programs for municipal employees applies here.
Yeah, it doesn't say we're changing, it just says that.
Yeah, so,
That's what we're using as state law.
so with that new information, are you still abstaining?
No, I'm
Just want to get it for the record.
All right, let's move on to Article 8 because Article 7 is done pending me fixing stuff. Cool.
All right, Article 8, boards and commissions.
So I marked up this paper a lot. We had a lot of thoughts, feelings, and emotions about this article. I kind of did my best, but we're gonna have to do some work on it. So Section A is listing the mandated boards and commissions. We've got planning and zoning, planning commission and zoning commission, board of zoning appeals, safety commission, parks and recreation commission, and then anything that council wants to create.
Why do we have a zoning commission? I thought that we had discussed having a planning commission and then having a board of zoning appeals, not a zoning commission.
I mean,
So I think you need a zoning commission to investigate and draft zoning regulation. The Board of Zoning Appeals is who, if someone is appealing the effect of one of those zoning legislation, they appeal that to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And what we had discussed was that the Board of Zoning Appeals, because it would only have to come out when there's that we would design that such that it could be an ad hoc commission, that, oh, we have no
Because-
problem.
Planning and zoning, we currently have
Yeah.
the committee. Okay,
Yes.
fine.
can I have changed this slightly to
Yeah,
just say
that's
planning and zoning? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that makes it clear that it's one entity.
Got it.
Yep.
All right, so that's our list of entities that we are mandating, and then council can create whatever other ones they feel like at any given time.
Do we keep parks and rec?
How are zoning appeals handled now? Do we have that?
I don't actually know.
I have a check mark next to Parks and Rec on my sheet, so I did.
We may have done an about face on that while you were gone.
Cool.
It's come up multiple times and we've come to multiple consensuses on it, so.
So why don't we do a quick vote?
Everyone gets a chance to say any piece they have about it first.
Which is.
Parks and
We're talking about whether or not to have a Parks and Recreation Commission.
Who's gonna take care of all the land, who's gonna take care of them?
See what well, I don't know that that's what the intention was, the care and maintenance of the land, right? I think the intention there was optimal utilization for our residents, right? So, organizing, I don't know, Tai Chi in the playground and a basketball
That's not a
league
bad
for
idea.
the, yeah,
Tai Chi.
a basketball league for the forthcoming basketball court and yada, yada, yada. That was the intention there. Right, if it's just mowing, we have people who mow.
Why don't we take the same logic we used before and say they can create it if they need it? Let's not pile a list of boards and give people something to vote against.
Because this would mandate it.
I think that was the argument, was that we wanted to mandate it.
Okay, if we want to, that's a
But
different issue.
that was the flip side, was people wanted to.
Yeah.
My recollection, the last time we talked about it, so I worked for Parks and Rec that recently. I don't always do Parks and Rec, but yeah. My recollection last time we talked about it was that we were going to leave it out, but that this was something that we could encourage residents to request of council.
That's what I thought.
That's what I remember.
That might have happened at a meeting that I wasn't present for because I have no memory. of this.
So,
So
I mean,
that goes.
let's vote on it,
Let's vote on it.
because I know that there were feelings both ways. And those are both sides of the coin. Anyone have any other pros, cons, discussion on it? All right. All right, so all in favor of mandating the Parks and Recreation Commission in the charter, raise your hand so I can count.
Actually, that's easy.
I don't really care one way or the other, but I do think you have a point that, if people wanna have leagues or whatever, that you want somebody to, organize.
Yeah, that sounds good. I got a kid.
You know what, I got a kid, there are a lot of kids, and to be
I
honest,
did
if
too.
it hasn't been done yet, it ain't gonna be done.
You were the one who started.
I know, but I'm raising, the reason I'm not raising my hand is because we discussed this ad nauseum. If you mandate it, is there a date on by which it has to be done?
That's the last chapter that we.
That's our.
It's in a transition, so there's.
It could be delayed, it could be
I don't think
delayed.
it matters not enough people raise their hands.
No, I'm waiting a minute.
We're not discussing it, apparently.
All right. Okay, so originally, are you still dating this?
Yes.
Yeah, so originally, the original reason we decided not to do it was because we felt like it would be too many commissions. And people would not want to, citizens are not gonna wanna serve on all these commissions. I do agree that we need a Parks and Rec Commission. The thing is that we don't necessarily need it right now, but I do believe we'll need it.
Exactly.
We will need it actually
Because just
sooner
remember, if they
rather
were
than
writing
later.
this, it's gonna require 3 members of the community in addition to a council member and the administrator. I don't really
And
give
this
a
is
crap
why I'm
about the
not-
administrator, that's what he or she's getting paid
That's
for.
why I'm not raising my hand.
So here's my thoughts, right? This is a wonderful thing to have, right? I am not saying I am opposed to a Parks and Rec Commission.
Yeah, me either.
I'm saying that it is not something that the village needs to be a successful village. Right? I would only like to mandate things that we need to be a successful village.
I agree with
I will again, let you know that I will do everything in my power to advocate for this as a commission that gets created after the fact. But I don't feel like organizing it as a requirement is the right course of action.
I don't think it has the votes to pass anyway, so I don't think we need to discuss it much
Yeah.
longer.
Okay, so document the yeas, all in favor
So.
of having mandating it in here? No,
So there's 5. Not close.
That's a third of the commission.
Yeah, so we're, it's done, no parks.
Yeah, all right.
Oh,
As my child cries
Oh,
away.
Oh, God.
It's okay, Brian won't feel like you should have.
Informed search.
It's okay, little son, I love you anyway.
Yes, blame it on
Moving forward, we got mandating, planning and zoning commission, board of zoning appeals, safety commission, and whatever council likes to do. Section B, following general rules shall govern boards and commissions. Each board or commission created by council.
Pause.
I want to pause there.
What about the ones not created by council?
Yeah.
What about the ones created in the charter?
There. You know what, or we could just simplify the sentence. Each board or commission shall consist of at least 5 members, composed of 1 member of council, the village administrator, and 3 members at large. Compensation terms, appointments, and removals shall be determined by council unless otherwise provided in this chart. Each member of a board or commission shall be and shall remain an elector of the village during the term of appointment unless otherwise provided by council. A vacancy occurring during the term of a member of a board or commission shall be filled for the unexpired term in the same manner as the original appointment. Each vacancy shall be filled within 60 days. Each board and commission shall establish its own rules of order to be approved by council. Members of boards and commissions shall serve without compensation unless otherwise provided by council. All meetings of boards and commissions shall be open to the public except as allowed by the laws of the state of Ohio.
Can you take out the and?
Which hand, the little hands?
7, last word.
Oh,
Do you need that?
the one that's just lingering all by itself?
Oh,
Well,
that's a thing, it's a thing I do, it's elsewhere in the charter. I do that when I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
semicolon, 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 and the
Thank
and shows you.
Because I'm old fashioned and weird.
Picture.
Okay, as long as it's not like, lingering, forgotten.
A thought I had as we were going through that is these sorts of, what we're calling commissions here in the village in the past have been called committees. Right, so when
You wanna add the word committees?
I do.
Okay.
Because, so here's the problem, so we're not saying they can't form committees anymore, right? So I'll give you 2 examples, right? So when Fisher Homes was trying to buy the golf course and wanted the village to buy 9 holes worth, we stood up a golf course committee.
Yeah.
A committee is a different word than commission.
It is, and I think they mean 2 separate things, and that's why I'm saying I don't like the idea.
Well, then we better define what those 2 words mean.
So what do you think they think final?
In my mind, when you say committee, I think most people are gonna think a committee of council members. And when you say commission, it's a mixture of council members and populace.
Except in the past, that
That's
that golf course
exactly not
committee
what it meant.
was matched your commission.
That's
right?
exactly not what
In
it
the
meant.
past, there was also a communications committee that was a mixture of residents and
Yep.
council members. So the community has used committee in a manner, in a manner that does not match your stated definition.
In a manner inconsistent with the definition.
Right.
So we have a
either-
section to define these, would it be?
Yeah, so we have to want to do that.
Well,
Because if we don't, what will happen is, committees could be stood up indiscriminate of any rules we've set up for commission.
I guess I see a commission being more official. Like your official commission, do something.
So somewhere in this document, we say that a committee is made up of council. Or a combination of council and or administrator and or, I don't know, mayor, or whatever.
so we have a section under general, I think it's section 11, to define things. We've already got on that list, elected official, public hearing versus public meeting, because there's some confusion about that. Ordinance, resolution, can we just add this to the
Yeah,
list and
yeah.
define it?
Commission.
We can,
Commission, committee.
I am fine with that as long as if we do that, then we also have to create rules for committees. Different and separate from that.
So
If we
instead,
care.
just, if we can take the hard road, or we can just add the word committee along with the word commission. That
Section
section.
3.04A4, the rules of council shall provide for the number, composition, and manner of appointment of committees of council and such other matters as council shall determine to be necessary for the proper functioning of the government of council.
So committees are council.
Yes.
Well, the committees of council.
Committees of council.
So there, we also have a facilities committee, right? That's the group that is investigating what to do for other buildings.
So I'm fine with doing a definition section and just specifying.
I think that what the charter does appoint these commissions and what the council.
Creates the
Council
committees.
forms and creates committees. I don't see a problem.
So I think
I
the
do.
difference is we can define it and that's what it is going forward, so there's not confusion. Or if there's such a entrenched idea of what it is that people aren't gonna read the definition or understand the difference and it's gonna hinder us getting this passed, then maybe it's worth doing a different way. But otherwise, I just say we can define it.
With defining.
Fine.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that we don't miss it because,
You can make that right.
Yep. We can't add anything else to the list of, I don't have one line on my paper, so.
So you're
Calm it
calling
down,
Any other items of debate regarding Article 8?
I do have one.
Yes.
It's, members that the council can appoint payment for, it says compensation terms number 2.
2 says council, I actually have a question about this too. 2 seems to be redundant with 7.
6. No, it's 7. 7 seems to say.
Yes, 2 and 7 seem to be redundant to me.
Or they seem to conflict because they give compensation too, but 7 says they serve.
I think.
Except as otherwise provided by council.
Well, it is.
So it makes it, what it really
Sets
is,
the default.
it does.
I would say that I like calling out that it's without compensation, because I think a lot of people hear how much this is gonna cost me, and specifically calling out that this is not compensated.
So,
So let's fix this right here, going to section 2 and just eliminate the word compensation because it's dealt with elsewhere.
Okay. This is why you're our typist, your drafter. Thank you, sir.
Cool. Anything else for section E?
Yeah.
Okay. Section 8.02, Planning Commission. Composition and terms. We have decided that it shall consist of 6 members, which is different from the general rule. 5 of the members shall be voting members, shall serve overlapping 3-year terms. The 6th shall be a council member appointed by council. Council member shall be a non-voting member of the Planning Commission. 3 voting members shall constitute a quorum.
I'm sure we can reason it.
It's entirely possible that it's a copy paste, but I feel like we would have discussed it.
I can't remember how, I want to say that there were 6 on P and Z now, it's 5 or 6.
Did we do it because four voting members is even number, we didn't want to do that?
But the thing that, well, how many council members are on P and Z right now?
Well, here, before
It's just one.
we get too deep in the weeds on numbers, let's read about powers and duties so that we have the context for what these guys are doing. Planning Commission shall have the power and duty to hear applications for land use, zoning classifications or districts, and as merited to submit written recommendations for legislative action or to render final determinations for administrative action, to initiate, review, and recommend legislation, rules, and regulations on all matters of village planning, land use, and zoning classification, and to exercise such other powers, duties, and functions as provided by council. I will be cleaning that paragraph up in terms of format because that's not very clear, but the substance is the substance.
Right.
So this commission, I believe, has more members baked in because they have their hands directly in the lives of a lot of populace members.
I actually am not opposed to keeping it at 6 members. I actually think that makes sense because P and Z is a hot button issue rather regularly here. And the more citizens we have on the Planning and Zoning Commission, the better off we are.
Oh, hey, I just realized, because this, and I can tell you this is a copy paste, because what this does, this first sentence eliminates, the administrator. If we want the administrator sitting on this commission, we need to write that in. So we have
I,
5 members that are, so the way this is written, it'll be 5 citizens plus a council member. The council member doesn't get a vote. So that's how you get away with no ties.
Right.
But as it's currently written, the administrator would not sit on this board.
I don't think the administrator needs to sit on this board. The administrator is there to do what the administrator is told to do, not to make rules.
They can
Not
advise
to make
when-
rules. They can advise, but it's not their job to determine what it is that we do.
Okay. I'm convinced.
Yeah.
Any other questions, concerns, thoughts, comments, feelings, emotions?
Has Pam, so I think before we would approve this, we would be wise to let Pam opine on it.
Well, we're not gonna prove it because he needs to rewrite it anyways.
Yeah, and it wouldn't hurt to maybe have Eric Fisher opine on it.
Yeah.
So these are things within his scope.
He has asked for an updated copy just so he can look through and give us any feedback he has. I simply haven't sent it to him, I didn't have it. But he just offers some help.
Noted.
Calling out why it's due, so we don't have a conversation about
Fix the formatting and let Pam and Eric comment. Board of Zoning Appeals, composition and term. 5 voting members, 4 of those members serve overlapping 3-year terms. 5th member shall be a planning commission member designated annually by the planning commission. Got it.
So I had thought that we were intending, well, let's look at the powers between candidates.
Board of Zoning Appeals shall have the power and duty to hear and decide appeals regarding legislative measures and administrative determinations relating to zoning and land use. The Board of Zoning Appeals may make advisory recommendations to council and the planning commission concerning zoning matters. Shall exercise such other powers, duties, and functions as provided by council. Board of Zoning Appeals shall also have the power and duty to hear variances from zoning area regulations and general development standards.
No,
So,
no,
No, I think that Pam said it was something that was sort of missing.
that should be P and Z, that here's the case, right?
No.
So if it's an appeal, meaning, so someone is requesting a
Oh,
variance,
yeah.
that's why it goes here, and currently that is done by council. Council is the one who has the hearing for the variance and then makes a judgment on it.
I'm just worried we're gonna have people do all these.
I think it had to be.
I mean, we're doubling in size. We got 2,000 people.
It's,
There's a lot of volunteers.
Didn't we talk about having this as like an ad hoc or something?
yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
only as
that's the thing. Is that in there?
no,
What?
that's explicitly not in there, because these are 3-year terms. We had originally talked about this being an ad hoc thing, so that.
And I do remember that, and I also remember going, I'm not real sure how to write it such that it could have all these rules, but then only exist whenever council deems fit. That's weird.
Well,
What
but
was,
let me ask you this. The Board of Zoning Appeals shall have the power and duty to hear and decide appeals regarding legislative measures and administrative determinations relating to zoning and land use. Why else would they meet?
They wouldn't.
Right, so that by definition, it makes.
That's true, it can exist, but then, and they name the members, but then maybe they only have 1 meeting a year or something, you know.
Or as needed,
Or-
right?
Or yeah, just as needed.
we're at a pace of about 2 or 3 variance requests a year. Off the top of my head.
I mean, I suspect that is gonna increase, but nonetheless.
Might not to, 6.
Is it where
I know.
the commission?
I mean, it says, the other thing they could do is make advisory recommendations to council. Is that just, they could say, hey, I want to recommend this?
If the Board of Zoning Appeals is seeing the exact same variance request over and over and over again, they could put together a report, submit it to council saying, hey, everybody hates this zoning rule, please pass an ordinance changing it.
So what I want to say is I like this because I feel that on more than one occasion, with more than one council, I have seen variance requests be handled in a manner that was not,
Just say the word, it was unfair. I've seen this happen
unfair or
many
or
times.
political, I've seen them, things that on their merits were straightforward. For a very reasonable person, a guy wants to have his fence 3 feet further than what the code allows, and they hold him ransom for an upgraded fence material.
That's exactly right.
That isn't required by the code.
That's exactly right.
Right, so I feel like a board of zoning appeals has less reason to do that, right? Council has a reason because they're making it better for everybody. But I am hearing strongly, do we have the volunteers to staff such a commission?
I don't mind the whole thing in theory, I just have concerns about all these committees.
Well, if this one's really ad hoc,
So we gotta have 6 people, whatever, is it 6, for this one too?
So,
This is odd.
funny you say that. Pam, I texted Pam and just asked her what we have currently on P and Z. She said there's 5 voting members, 3 citizens, the mayor has a vote, and then the council liaison who also has a vote. That's what it is currently.
So we're gonna make that double, we're gonna choose that to,
Two additional residents,
yeah, 2 residents.
but remove the mayor from the mix.
And to remove the vote. from the
You know, the
council
votes.
liaison.
And then you're adding another committee. So you're adding, 7 people?
So
Well, we
you
already
the
got-
council vote on
Yes.
the previous board, the planning and zoning commission, board of zoning appeals, all 5 of them have a vote. 4 of them are citizens, the 5th is also a citizen, but is a crossover from planning and zoning commission.
Right, so there are 2.
So it's 4 more.
And they don't get paid either.
Okay.
So far, none of these are getting paid.
How could you? I don't know.
Is there a section where we specify time limits, how, do you want to be able to have an appeal a year after something has been passed? Or is that addressed anywhere?
I think that's probably somewhere.
Well, theoretically, the board of zoning appeals is going to create its rules, and those rules will be approved by council. And then they'll have to follow those rules. That's what we read up above.
Jen had it.
Okay.
so I get that it's a big deal to ask for this many volunteers, but also this is a hot button issue because of exactly what Brian and I said. I have watched the council screw people over on this issue, zoning appeals, and I have watched them be absolutely unfair and completely political. And I don't want that anymore. I want somebody else to take the reins of this, or we're gonna have that continued abuse, in my opinion, abuse of power.
So this adds more checks and balances. is what you're saying.
I'm fine with I guess my question for all these committees is, what happens if you don't get enough people to?
Then-
We're only get 3 people that come up after months and months.
Then I send Nina out
That's
with her smiling disposition, her happy disposition and her smiling face.
So Pam's not here, so you're putting it on me.
That's right,
Okay.
okay.
Well, it says it should be filled within 60 days, but let's face it, if they don't have people in 60 days, they can't.
It's not like the village blows up if they don't have people in 60 days. I suppose somebody, if a concerned citizen were really concerned, they could sue the village if they didn't have this committee up and running within 60 days and it was directly violating the charter. I suppose that could happen, but it's doubtful.
Is the word shall, or is the word whatever?
So look, at the end of the day, I guess, I think the short answer here is that at the end of the day, as long as no one is derelict in their duty, then there's no teeth to the word shall, right? So if council is refusing to do their job and they just don't appoint the people, then they're derelict in their duty. But if they put out a weekly call all through every medium they can find for 6 months and never get anyone, no one can sue the village saying, no one volunteered and it's your fault, council. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And then you just don't have that, work.
And how do they take some of the city, they just volunteer.
Right, yeah. I mean, have you ever had trouble filling the board?
How long have you had council?
In like, your people who are familiar with council memory, have we had a lot of trouble filling positions?
On council, yeah.
On council,
but not on
on the commissions, is what I meant.
Not on the committees we have, no.
Commissions and committees, okay.
But the reason we have it, I want to be clear about this, is because usually the mayor went out and recruited somebody.
Okay.
That's why.
All right.
Handpicked, exactly.
Well, that means there are people who will step up, so.
What do you think I do?
Oh, you're gonna be on every single commission. I have already handpicked you.
So anyway,
Back towards zoning appeals.
do we have a problem with the number of members and the composition of the members?
Is the fifth member shall be a
Could
planning
be anyone
commission
on the planning
member
commission.
designated annually, they vote.
So, and appeals, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So you want to be 3 people instead of 5?
Yeah.
Okay, I have no dog in this fight, I don't really care.
Fewer people's houses for me to egg, if they go against, they can go to TV.
Does anyone have a problem with changing it to the Board of Zoning Appeals to be consisting of 3 voting members?
Right, two,
So-
one for employees.
And the only thing, you're giving a lot of power to 3
Three
people.
people, yeah.
Okay, it's not that.
It is indicating whether, a variance. I don't think it's that much power. They're still public people, they'll still be held accountable by the community. It's,
But still get their house.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if you can appeal a local building appeal to the Ohio Board of Building Appeals.
Yes, well,
So again, if there's 3 power mad people who are holding someone right now,
It's like 5 steps total. 'Cause
I think.
you know, like the Ohio works is I think you can take it to the Court of Appeals and then the Supreme Court if you've got a novel issue.
yeah, I think this is the
That'd be
last
cool.
step.
and let's face it, Gino Center Coffee still has a lien on his property, therefore anything goes.
So the way I have changed this, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall consist of 3 voting members. 2 of these members shall serve overlapping 3-year terms, and the 3rd member shall be a planning commission member designated annually by the planning commission. Cool?
Beautiful.
Good with the powers and duties?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'll fix the formatting. Do we want to run this past Pam and Eric?
I was just gonna send it the whole section.
Well, right, but I'm explaining why it's gonna be in blue.
Yes. Formatting.
All right, safety commission is sort of undrafted in the sense that it doesn't exist, but I figured what we would end up doing is wanting to copy the language in either 802 or 803 into a safety commission section. So rather than waste my time, I decided to just let us pick which one we want it to look like.
So, safety commission cannot be only 3 people.
So it should be the 5.
It should be 5,
Yeah.
the 6 total. And we absolutely have to have one.
Yeah, no, it's,
I mean, we have one now, and without it, we would live in a very different village. We would have a very different police department right now without it.
I don't think anyone's arguing against the need for a city department.
So like, we all,
So we need to list powers and duties.
we like the 5 members,
Should,
overlapping 3-year terms, 6 should be a council member.
well, we need to fix this, 6 shall be a council member. Do we just eliminate the next sentence?
The council member shall be a non-voting member.
Got it.
Thanks for coming.
thank you.
All right, powers and duties.
You still have 6th member up there?
I guess you could remember.
Yeah.
The guy who lives across the street with the.
But we do have 6 months.
Oh, yeah, that's Tim the handyman.
What's his name? Tim?
Yeah, I can't remember his last name, but he's Tim the handyman.
Yeah,
So he fixed it?
In his record, he's got
who has been the subject of many zoning issues.
Oh, yes, he has. Yes, he has.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so back to safety. Back to safety.
Anyway, safety commission shall have the power and duty to do stuff.
Maybe we should maybe talk about what kind of stuff.
Yeah. Not zoning.
Yeah,
So,
they're not gonna hear application for land use. What is this fine somewhere today? So we have a safety commission, that's awesome, we love it, is there a commission
Well, we
somewhere?
don't have a safety commission like this, we have a safety committee.
Right, they don't have I said safety committee currently, and it's not like this. But one of the things that it has done in the past, which it probably should continue to do, is research best practices for police and fire. I don't know that it does so much with fire, but it did with police, and that made all the difference.
so we have something similar to this 9%?
It is the safety committee.
Right, and that's 3 council people.
Oh, so it's another council.
Yeah, this is
Are we trying to make this another village and,
Right, this is,
community thing?
yes, but this is what the intention here is to bring 5 residents on board with doing this.
And whatever they do, it has to go to council to be approved.
Yeah.
Like you would have all the other things.
Yeah, exactly. But they should be doing things like advising on, police procedure, advising on, best practices, serving as community ombudsman.
Yeah, I think that serving as a community ombudsman for the police department is a good idea in researching best practices. We should not say determining actual police procedures. We need to say researching best practices.
Or just advising on
Right.
policy, advising on procedure.
Right.
I feel like this is very much an advisory
It is.
kind of thing, because unless you have a bunch of police officers on it, then it wouldn't be appropriate for them to actually write the policies and procedures.
Right, no. But they did actually do a very good job of kind of turning our police department around. They were integral in making it a professional department.
And it's because like students, ombudsman and.
If we aren't gonna come up with them from whole cloth tonight, then yes, please.
I remember them.
I do too. And I heard a lot of things.
Okay, so let's take that away. We're not approving this tonight anyways. We need to better define what we want that to look like. Powers and duties, stuff things. Good, Shelley. Shelley, I know that you are really good at doing some research on other.
She just offered to do that.
Yeah, you're the best.
Thank you.
Need,
So apparently, the current duties of the safety committee is to oversee the policies and budget of fire, police and fire. Kind of, no wonder presentation. Highly
which,
encompassing.
well, and it's also not really relevant to what this is, because it's
Yeah.
not a council subcommittee, it is
So,
a
Yeah.
commission.
Yeah, but I mean, that's worth knowing what they do now, right? So thank you.
I didn't know if Sherrod would be able to find that. I'm impressed, is that on? I just asked Matt. She said I was a safety committee right now. So I texted him. Okay.
We are actually effectively texting people.
Something in there should say advisory.
Yeah.
Because I'm.
Advisory stuff.
Anything on
There you go.
Advisory stuff.
Okay, moving on to, since we got 25% of Article 8 done, let's move on to Article 9. We got one of 4 sections.
Right, but I think that everything else only has one.
I'm being,
The fiscal year is up for grabs, you guys argue about this?
Yes, we did.
Oh my God almighty.
Well, here's what we argue. Do we want to find it or do we want to not find it? As it's not my thing, just let people say it'll stay or they can change it later, I don't know. Or do we want to find it?
You know,
I think we should just say.
what the fiscal year is now actually works. Yeah, that's actually something that's not broken.
So do we break it?
and
by
yet we
name?
found a way to argue about it for like half an hour.
Yeah.
That's our talent.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, so do we want to define it or?
Did you ask Kim fully what
Someone
the
was
fiscal
going
year
to.
is?
No, I mean.
July 1st.
Well, I have a note. I had enough to ask him about.
I think our fiscal year is specifically, yeah, it's about fiscal year, which is July 1st through June 30th.
Exactly. That's what,
But there's a reason to that.
exactly.
Right.
And there's a reason that it's a fiscal year and not a calendar year, because I think Kim Pulley has certain things that she used to get into the state on time. Everybody runs on a fiscal year, on the exact same calendar, not a calendar year, but the fiscal year. It needs to remain the same and not be defined.
I'm gonna just propose that someone be designated to reach out to Kim Foley, get her direct recommendation, and then we go with whatever she says.
All right, he's gonna reach out to her.
Me, because I already want to ask about when remember we discussed when the budget needs to be done, whether it's 16 or 90 days before, and so I want to ask her that. And when does she need to?
You're welcome.
I'm making it up.
So no one had a problem with A, well, wait, hold on. All right, taxation, borrowing, budgeting, and contracting procedures. The laws of the state of Ohio relating generally to budgets, appropriations, taxation, debt, bonds, assessments, deposits, and investment of funds, and other fiscal matters of the village shall be applicable except as otherwise provided in this charter or by council. So it's just kind of a catch-all.
Yeah.
We're gonna get feedback from Kim on the fiscal year. Our operating budget and appropriation ordinance. Should that be plural, or is the appropriation ordinance its own line? In addition to the annual tax budget required by the Ohio Revised Code, the administrator, in consultation with the director of finance, shall be the first scheduled council meeting. No, yeah, it was right. Shall, by the first scheduled council meeting in November, submit.
After finance. Yes, shall.
Shall, by the first scheduled council meeting in November, submit to council a proposed operating budget for the ensuing fiscal year. The administrator.
Pause. Why are we doing it by November if this year's in January? Or in June?
Well,
So that the council has time to argue about it for 2 months?
but wait,
It'd be like 8 months.
this is another thing that Kim Pulley knows the answer to.
So the operating budget is on calendar year, it sounds like. So.
I think that it all is on the calendar year, but I think that you guys I think we should see what Kim says.
Yeah, we need to just invite Kim back again.
Maybe, because it's, again, actually paying our bills and getting our budget done, that is a portion of the village government that's not broken. And I don't want to
We
break
had a
it.
former council member, you guys don't know.
I don't remember specifically. So I had another thought on this, right? Because I'll be honest and tell you, the only thing I care about in this whole section is big limit.
Is what?
Big limit.
Yeah,
And we have to be silent on the rest of it and just say, Because I think that as far as the rest of it goes, the statutory plan is A-okay, as long as I believe, and we can kind of go through and make sure, but the bid limit is the only thing in this whole section.
That's 5% of where we're talking.
Yeah,
That's it, that's the only thing, everything else, I think is fine with the statutory plan.
the whole number 2 reason that I even wanted to do this was the bid limit.
And you know what? Does anybody feel strongly otherwise?
I think we should use federal fiscal year.
That's November through October.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that ends in October.
What about retail?
With Halloween, what better way to celebrate the end of the fiscal year?
We'll stop saying this to you.
Yeah.
They want to wait for Christmas returns. So there's a reason why every company has a fiscal year in mind. I don't know that the village is probably not a big deal, but maybe it is. That's what it is.
So do we want to table it and ask Kim Foley?
Yes.
Do you want Kim Foley to grace us with her presence to talk through these things, or do we feel like email would suffice?
I feel like an email. So I think the answer is going to be pretty straightforward. Talk to her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I don't think we need to spend an hour discussing this and questioning her.
No, but resume and instruction. Section 9, or piece, which is email.
Yeah.
Because I have it in front of me.
You want section 903 or all
It's
of
not,
our?
just starting at Article 9.
Before I forget,
Yes.
I just wanted to make everybody know that we don't have anything back up in the budget, but we did get another bill from Brigham Eckler for the month April, which is over $5,500, which I believe puts us right around in the low 30s now.
Oh, my God.
So I think we're at 34 with, I know you said there was nothing really else, but I was surprised to see April be the same as March. So
He did break up a lot of articles for us.
He got us all the rest of the memos in April.
we felt like I said, I don't know the ramifications of having going over the budget or what the council has to do or doesn't have to do, but we are not going to be within that $300,000. I'd be shocked with the mailing, because I think the mailing, if I remember correctly, was like $800,000 or $9,000 to mail.
I think that we were discussing whether that comes out of that budget or not.
Yeah, we did discuss that because
It's possible it doesn't.
it's possible that the village has to, because the word shall was used, they have to pony up for the mailing.
Regardless of whether that's in there or not, we're still almost at that $1 million.
Yeah, we're close and we shouldn't be spending any more money than.
And we're not, it's, we go through to June. I'm just making everybody aware officially.
So I will say this, I think we could have Paul, for instance, come to a meeting, like one more meeting or two and be okay. What takes up a lot of time is when they write that, what we're seeing is, a 3-page memo. They're sinking hours of associate time into researching.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not cool because they have to try to find charter examples that are most analogous to us.
Right.
So
Are they going to read our finished charter and?
I would want to.
That's what we put the
I
language.
think that's what we should hold any major spending for. We should wait until we're done. We think we've got a bow on it. Put it in their hands and then let them go one last meeting to opine on what's in front of us.
And tell them exactly how much money they can give us. Tell them exactly how much time, tell them exactly how much money we have left to spend on them, because
Send it down to the minutes.
My guess is the council or whoever pays that bill is just going to keep paying.
Oh, that's fine, I don't.
I
I would like under honor to keep. However, I don't know what that.
I happen to know factually that there are 2 council members who are paying very, very close
They
attention.
should be paying close attention to all budgets.
There are only 2 of them and that are paying very, very, very close attention to us.
All of them should be paying attention.
All right, getting back on track.
Yep, I call this again with Kim.
Yeah. So 903A, we have a question of the calendar.
this gets too complicated.
December 21st.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That just, yeah, all in it. All right, administrator shall prepare, revise, and adjust the budget estimates for submission to council. So the finance director gets a proposed operating budget to council. Administrator prepares, revises, and adjusts the budget estimates for submission to council. That's weird to me.
It's very weird.
It's clunky. It's the language that they're, so I almost want to say that the director of finance needs to get it to the administrator, and then the administrator presents it to council.
And I believe that's how it reads in the administrator's duties.
Yes, submit to the administrator. In which case, do we need to add some more time in, like, the director of finance gets the,
One of Shelley's follow-ups with Candace, how far you
Yeah.
need to have, how much lead time they need for the proposed budget, and how much lead time they need for the approved budget.
And then section C says council shall adopt a balanced budget.
Could you go back to that for a second? It says that
You don't balance
the
the budget.
administrator shall submit to the administrator.
Oh, you're right, Deb. Administrator and consultation, you're right, submit to council.
All the budgets I've ever done, they're all based on proposed revenue that we're going to, or I'll have a $5 million budget. I'm not balancing anything. Throughout the year, I'm staying within my budget.
But I assume that you're talking about within your corporate environment, right?
Yeah.
So this environment is different because you have a known or estimated revenue stream. So the statement of a balanced budget is about matching your anticipated expenditures to your anticipated income, right? Because where you're within a corporate structure, you personally, your department isn't a revenue stream.
So we're just saying they're not going to go over their, whatever they anticipate being their revenue, income revenue.
Right.
Yes,
We got,
yes.
Proposed operating budget shall contain a recommended appropriation ordinance. Council shall, by end of whatever calendar we go with, adopt both the operating budget and appropriation ordinance as submitted or amended. If council fails to enact that, then both shall be deemed to have been adopted finally by council as submitted by the administrator. So basically, the administrator submits the proposal, council gets to argue and change and amend and debate and all that, and then they adopt it. If they fail to do that, then the proposal goes through, we don't just not have a budget.
how long do they have to mull it over?
Well,
By the end, they have until the end of the year, the end of our calendar year, to approve it. To enact it.
That's gonna have to be,
that's a big.
that's gonna be talked about by Kim. I mean, she's gonna tell us what is realistic.
Whether
So we were looking through the samples provided. They were all over the place, whether they were a calendar year, whether they were the June fiscal year,
And there were,
and their dates were all wacky as well. Some had, like this one that we copied had December 21st because it was January to December and had to be done before the holidays, right? There were others that said within 60 days of the end of the fiscal year. So there's choices.
This isn't time. Yeah, forget it.
Well, what I tend to do is share this with Kim and say, what are you doing now? Because if it's working well for the village, we don't want to rock and roll.
Yeah, we should have it for
Well,
That's a lot of stuff, a lot of questions.
it is, and she can just, during the course of a regular day. you can see it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Now it's not.
It is.
all right, 914. I'm just moving on because we have agreed that we need Kim's help.
You want to put down my blue?
He did. Didn't you?
Not also.
All right, 904 is that section that Ricker and Eckler just wrote for us wholesale because I think they must have decided that it was not going to be a good idea for us to try to do it ourselves. So I took what we walked through in that meeting and copy pasted it here. So tracking powers and procedures. This section sets forth procedures for the procurement of contracts for designating and constructing public improvements, including without limitation, roads, bridges, traffic signalization and signage, sidewalks, buildings, treatment works, storm sewers and other stormwater management improvements, flood control improvements, sanitary sewers, water lines, other utilities, parks and monuments. This section also sets forth procedures for the procurement of contracts for the purchase of equipment, supplies, or other materials for the operation and maintenance of public improvements and otherwise promoting the functions and operations of the village, which contracts may or may not be associated with the construction of a public improvement.
Did everybody get that? Any questions on those two things about what they mean, anything that you love, anything you hate?
I love the inclusion of monuments.
And remember, we paid for this, people were keeping it.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure if we're gonna vote to approve something, we're all in favor.
So this is still highlighted. I don't know what section it's supposed to be consistent.
Because somewhere in here, we have to authorize who we're gonna designate and sign the contract.
Yes, that is somewhere, I
So-
don't know where.
In either the power of the mayor or the power of the administrator, we indicated that, and it should be the administrator.
I don't think it's in there at all. I'll
I
look
thought
again,
it was.
I'll look again.
That's
But
all.
I mean, I still have my
The
note.
administrator would be the person who signs.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's fine.
I think we talked about that.
We talked about that a long time.
I think we talked about it several times. but-
So let's
But then you
keep
bring it
reading
down.
through, and if you guys, if any of you realizes what C is supposed to be consistent with, let me know.
As far as the section, you mean?
Yeah, I just need to know what number to put in this blank. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, and I would almost did a highlight.
Yeah, I'm done, yeah.
If you change things.
All right, so the bottom line is C is saying that the administrator or their designee will be awarding and executing all contracts on behalf of the village. Moving on to D, I have it in red because we're never ever gonna stop arguing about this.
We did vote on it, and 10% passed, but we wanted to throw it to a poll. Well, I should say you wanted to throw it to a poll.
Are we sure 10% passed?
You wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
because it
Sunday.
was Sunday, we were all here.
It was a Sunday, and there were only 8 of us.
There were 9 of us. Didn't Kim Cole give us a recommendation for this as well?
She gave us a hard number recommendation, not a percentage.
What was that? 100 was her.
So I'm gonna just read D. Council shall establish procedures for competitive bidding, including a threshold amount for requiring competitive bidding that is not higher than X% of the annual general fund appropriations, notice provisions, and such other procedures as it deems appropriate.
So on the Sunday meeting, we had decided on 10%, correct?
That was,
But there were some people missing, we have a few towards the beginning, and we wanted to.
Yeah, I thought we were at 5%.
that's what I remember.
So what it would come down to is the vote was between 5%, which is approximately with today's current budget, approximately $100,000.
What's the annual budget now?
This number, it's approximately 2 million.
Is it 2 million and going up too, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But
It could go up or down.
the idea, it could go up or down, and the idea of leaving it as a percentage is that it would flex and grow
With the
with the village, right? So presumably you would have bigger projects when you have a bigger budget, and you may it would be appropriate to allow a higher limit. It does, if you notice, allows council to set the limit lower than this percentage. So if we say 10%, which comes out to approximately 200,000, council, it is within their purview to say, whoa there, Tiger, that's a little too much to trust us with. Let's us set the limit to 100,000. That's fine, right? I don't have a problem with council hamstringing themselves. I'm hoping that we can afford the most flexibility reasonable.
So I would posit that can we take a, not on the record, but not formal vote, just to see where everybody stands, so we don't spend another 2 hours talking about this?
What are the options?
Right now, they're 5 and 10%, but
Which would equal in dollar amounts, what that equals.
Approximately 200 and approximately $100,000.
so why don't we do a tripartite vote, because we can do that, right? You can say 5%, 10%, or
I think that's.
other.
Yeah,
Sure, other being, I want to argue about this for another hour.
or your better idea, right? If you have a better idea, feel free, this is your opportunity.
I mean, and again, I don't want this to take like more than a minute, I just want to see where everybody stands.
So,
Go.
5, who is in favor of making that percentage 5?
So do it, this is not for here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people.
Who is in favor of making it 10?
Okay,
Yes, people are leaning towards the lower.
Are we missing exactly 3 people?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just making sure
And-
someone didn't mean to vote other.
and is there anyone who wants some other thing, anyone else can you say? Or not, you can say.
Or any other question?
Well, the only other option I would think is to just not put that in there and let council decide for you.
Oh, no.
I know.
Don't go there.
All right, so it's 5 to 10%, sounds so much better, thank you for putting it out there. All right, so do we want to talk it through, or do we want to just?
5%.
We've just voted on it.
Well,
HR,
Okay, so I move we vote on making the bid limit 5%.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. I assume it's gonna go on.
Now we have-
One is higher.
Now I will write all that down.
100. Well, I will not.
That was
Throughout the old,
in
it's
favor of
awesome.
voting,
Right
now you have
now,
to vote.
I mean, I assumed it was the same. but,
I'm gonna go through changing this to.
so do you need the all in favors of 5%?
Yeah, all in
Raise your
favor of
hands.
I will do that.
I'm changing my vote,
Oh,
not because of you. No, I just, I'm serious.
Get tired. Did I miss that?
Not to throw a monkey wrench in it,
5, 6,
but-
7.
well, that's the difference in say 7.
Okay.
Because then the math is harder.
7, 3.
Can we get everybody on board if it's 7.5?
All right, did you get the,
That's fine.
did you get everybody?
Yes.
All right, so, all opposed?
Yes,
Against
okay,
five.
so against 5.
Against
So it's 5.
So,
Is that right?
yeah, that's right there.
5 carries, but we're giving Ellen a chance to write it down, shall we? Hand up.
Okay. And Sarah, did you abstain?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that does equate to the number that Ken came up with, right?
Approximately.
Yeah.
All right, so that was put to bed, let's not talk about that.
At council's discretion, such procedures may contain a prohibition against awarding a contract in excess of a specified percentage of an engineer's estimate. Cool. When any contract for the construction of a public improvement or the purchase of equipment, supplies, or materials is estimated to exceed the competitive bidding threshold established by council, the contract shall be competitively bid unless exempt under section 9.04C.
Which is the emergency section.
No, this is incorrect.
That's
We
incorrect,
changed, we
yeah.
changed something.
No, here's the thing that was highlighted, I was guessing 9, I don't actually know. This is another example of me not knowing what section they were intending me to put in there.
Is that the one where we said like it's sewer, it's something else?
Oh, you know what, if I scroll down, hold on. E. It's,
Why would they say it was C then?
I think it's different section, but it didn't argue.
and a completely different article, would it be in legislative?
Yeah,
The legislative procedure, which is article 4.
Do It would be what, 4.4, is that what they have?
John?
No, that doesn't make any sense.
30, is it 406C? Unless otherwise provided in this chapter.
No.
And then zoning measures.
It would be in technical codes. I really don't want to have to email Paul to say, what section did you move?
No, let's say those take away what section. Do valid.
If it's going to be attached to one of his memos to us, I can check there.
Sorry.
Yeah. So,
That's okay.
904, it is 904.
Yeah.
904,
It's
but it's not C, it's,
E.
it's, E.
Yeah, I know for,
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
Council shall award a contract to the lowest and best bidder, provided that council may reject any and all bids in whole or by items. No contract shall be divided to avoid the requirements of competitive bidding.
Just legal terms. It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Lowest and best is a term of art. Aaron Fisher was throwing it around a lot the other day.
It's, right, so what that allows is, because if you just said the lowest, what happens is someone can give you a lowest bid, but it's crap on other ways, like, so they're the firm with the worst reputation, they are, how does one,
Or missing how you define that.
well, right, but it is, like you said, it is a term of art, it's what allows council to have judgment in choosing, bidders.
So section E is about supermajority. By a supermajority vote, council may waive the competitive bidding requirements. In section B, which is not right. It's section B. If council determines that an emergency threatens public safety or property, or an item or service is only available from a single source or provider, or when funding could be lost due to time constraints. The administrator shall select the construction project delivery method that in the administrator's discretion is in the best interest of the village. Which project delivery method may include, without limitation, construction manager at risk, design build, design bid build, single prime contracts, or any other method of project delivery.
However, the council shall have the authority to direct the administrator to select a particular construction project delivery method.
Notwithstanding any provision of the laws of the state of Ohio, the contractor shall not be entitled to receive interest on funds temporarily retained on a contract pending final acceptance of work performed or goods supplied, nor shall the village be required to maintain a separate escrow account to hold such retained funds. And that was a really complicated way of just saying people don't get to make interest off of us. Contracts for professional services, including without limitation, architectural, engineering, surveying, testing, inspection, and legal services shall not be subject to the competitive bidding requirements of this section and shall not require authorization by the council if the current operating budget provides sufficient funding for the services to be provided, or if the council has otherwise appropriated monies for such services. Council shall establish procedures for alterations or modifications of contracts. Modifications or alterations of contracts shall not require competitive bidding. Such procedures may include a requirement that the council approve cumulative contract modifications that exceed a specified percentage of the original contract value. Cool.
I'm so glad. That's
All right.
worth it.
I'm gonna keep it in blue because I'm gonna fix some formatting stuff still.
Anybody have any questions, clarification, or concerns with anything in that section? I know contracting is a concern.
I don't know, pay contracts and that's wrong.
Are y'all good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Okay. That's all I got.
that's okay, because it's 8:00.
We can
so-
start working, I know you guys started working through other articles. I read the meeting minute notes and I had no way to parse what sections I'm copy pasting and what I'm not and blah, blah, blah. So,
Let's see what I can do, because I've got notes on what we're doing.
okay.
And hopefully have that drafted.
I mean, it sounded like from the meeting minute notes, you've talked all the way through 10, 11, and 12, right?
We did. We didn't
So it's a matter of
necessarily-
getting me the notes and then I'll draft.
We didn't necessarily finish all of them, but we started the conversation. So things like transition were,
The meeting minute notes actually state specifically what sections we want to
It
do.
does, but what it does not state is, please copy and paste the New Albany charter instead of the Dublin charter, and that's my problem. Because you get very clearly what everyone's opinions are, I just don't know what I'm using as my base.
my notes are copy along, copy over.
And that's what I
Yeah,
need,
exactly.
that's what I need in order to get the base.
Together,
charter.
you and I were doing it.
Cool. So that one can be done early.
Almost, yes, we will be done early, just not this week. So the transitional, I forget what it is, I'm sorry, the transition 12 was the one that we were struggling with the most. OBES has some good effective language. We really wanted to get some feedback. Everybody hopefully has a chance to think about it, about what we need this to look like. Did anybody have a chance to think about it, have any new feedback, thoughts, ideas about what we want that transition article or anything that transition article to look like or be covered? Has everybody had and not thought about this at all? Because, I mean, you
I was
talked out your
really
finger,
feverish
you were
during the
unconscious, your
So,
kid was healthy, you changed, you didn't know how to
one,
handle life.
One thing that I'm sure we won't be able to account for entirely, but as I understand it, at Monday night's council meeting, they were discussing salary for the mayor under our current statutory plan. And I don't know where they landed, because I actually haven't had a chance to listen to
I
that
want to
one.
run for mayor.
Well, no, I think it's because there's a mayoral term up.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what Paul.
Yeah, they don't,
Absolutely
they don't
right.
find it now.
No, 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 no,
These people are
there's a-
like-
I don't know that that's necessarily a fair statement, because it didn't come from council, right? Ken Pulley brought this to their attention, that this is their opportunity to adjust salary for the mayor for, and any decision being made has to be made before the deadline for filing for anybody to run, because that's your last bite at that apple until the next term, unless we impact it with the charter.
I was gonna say, unless we pass the charter.
Well, right, and so what I think what I'm trying to say is that we should be mindful of that in our transitional provisions.
Can we, I know we talked about part-time, full-time. Can we define what part-time, full-time is?
We certainly have the ability.
Because right now, we don't get that answer now. Like what the position of mayor, is it full-time, is it part-time, how many hours is that person?
Didn't we do that when we defined what they do?
No, we had a conversation
I mean-
about whether to define it, and
Yeah.
originally it was, yes, we should define it, and then it was, no, we shouldn't define
But,
it.
I mean, we defined the powers, so, well, I guess.
Yeah.
How many hours
so-
does it take to do that?
Okay, so
Yeah,
here's my question, right? So we've defined duties and responsibilities for the mayor, right? Now, do you want the mayor, who we've defined as part-time, so in my head, part-time is no more than 20 hours a week. So for whatever reason, they hit 20 hours on Wednesday, they punch the clock and say, see you next week, guys!
What I don't want is
Yeah.
a mayor that we're paying $75,000 a year on working part-time. That's what I don't want.
So what I will tell you is that, hey, it's very unlikely that we'll have a mayor making $75,000 a year.
You're making fun of them.
But you know what? If somebody, and maybe I'm crazy, right? But if somebody's job is defined for them and their salary is set at $75,000 a year and they are accomplishing all the things that they are responsible to do, and they do it in 3 hours a week, I don't care, they're doing all the things we've asked. Obviously, we value those tasks at that amount.
So, I guess my question, I've got a comment and question. My question is, are you concerned that they won't put in as many hours as you think they should, or that they won't get the work done? And then my comment is, I'm salaried at my job, I get paid how much I get paid, and I have to get my work done, and that's that. It doesn't matter if it takes me 30 hours a week or 60. Here's your job, you get the things done, the world moves on.
Yeah,
So like salary
I get that.
by definition doesn't.
I don't think it's an unreasonable request to say a part-time person is in the realm of 20 hours and full-time works 40 or whatever. Well, I'm more concerned with you have the mayor, the position of mayor, don't they have like office hours? I'm gonna be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday from this time to this time. I mean,
I think that's discretionary.
I think it's odd that nobody came to me right now if the mayor is part-time or full-time.
Our current mayor is a part-time position.
That's not defined.
No, our current mayor is not the.
How it was.
No, it is not.
What about for benefits? Does that matter for benefits? Then I don't think it matters. I think that here's your salary.
Yeah.
It's not an hourly position. Right? So if there's a requirement for office hours or to be present, whatever, then that needs to be defined in rules. But,
So, I get what you're saying. And, you know, in a perfect world with people who actually, are doing their jobs in good faith, then I don't have a problem. If you're doing your job, then you can do that in 3 hours, or it takes you 80 hours in a week. I don't care. Are you getting everything done that we need you to do? But that's not how this works. And it really doesn't work like that here because this is a local government. There will be people who will want and have never had, they've yelled about it, and they've never had absolute set in stone designated hours that they can come in here and talk to the mayor and gripe and moan and complain and
So
kvetch.
here's the bottom line, I'm gonna address the elephant in the room there. The only way you can expect that is if the mayor is effectively a full-time position. Because if it's part-time,
Absolutely not. The
Well,
mayor
let
should
him
not be part-time,
let
or
it
should
finish.
not be full-time.
Let it finish.
because if it's a part-time job, then either you're dealing with a person who doesn't care to have a full-time job, or frankly, a retired person who doesn't need a full-time job, because anyone my age is gonna have 2 part-time jobs at that point. I'm saying on average, and you know I'm right.
I just want to make one comment about that. I
And so
now,
then,
I
and
now
then expecting
know,
office hours in addition to that, that
I
turns
now-
into a full-time job, in my opinion.
I now know of 2 people, who are throwing their hats in the ring, both of whom have full-time jobs and expect to be a part-time mayor for the village of Minerva Park. I now know 2, I know 2 others who are on the fence.
Then you think we can't get along.
Exactly.
Sorry, Bob.
Yeah, I just want to point out that in the sample charters that Paul gave us and in the various charters I've read, the reason that you're not finding these things in other charters is because it's overtime, in my opinion. And I think that it's not the point of the charter to decide if mayors
And
part-time or full-time.
And I would agree with that, and I think the bigger concern I'm hearing is that the mayor's not available, and that there's no office hours, and it's this mythical magical position that people don't know when they work, are they working, are they getting things done, something's not getting done because they're not paying hours. I don't think defining the job as full-time or part-time solves any of those. I think maybe requiring a method of communication or requiring office hours, which again is not the purview of the charter, would address those, but I don't think defining the job as full-time or part-time would fix any of those.
I mean, you could theoretically have a position as mayor now, not do anything for a month.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't even know.
Right.
You wouldn't even know. They could just be making updates on Facebook saying, I'm gonna call this person.
Right, but how does defining it as a full-time or part-time job change that?
I don't know that there's, I think if you were defined it, I think if you set some standards, for the office hours, the availability, I think that makes a difference.
Yeah, but that's not full-time, part-time. That's nothing to do with So I'm saying the solution doesn't fix the problem.
I think if you set those standards, there's no reason you couldn't set those standards.
Agreed.
But is that appropriate in the charter? So let's say we write in the charter, the mayor shall have office hours from 9 AM to 11 AM, Mondays and Wednesdays.
Or what if we do? I
Or
mean,
what, no, I'm not-
the mayor shall have regular office hours.
Yeah, well, mayor shall have regular office hours doesn't necessarily solve this problem because the mayor could have 1 hour of office hours a month. That's not what he's asking.
Well, you could have a full-time mayor, and then it just,
But
Well, but you're
it's not
making-
shown at all.
Because you're making the assumption that full-time or part-time solves your problem, and it doesn't, that's where I'm struggling with this. It doesn't solve your concern,
I
right?
know, I like the structure of saying 20, 40, that kind of thing.
Right, other than making you comfortable that what does it accomplish?
I think it sets a structure. I think it sets, like, you're required to be here Monday through Friday to do these things.
No, you're not, you're just required to work 20 hours a week. That can be,
I would, if there's an office for that position, I would expect them to be here doing stuff.
but defining it 20, 40 doesn't set that law.
But no, if you say that, if you do those in conjunction with that.
But setting hours doesn't set the quality.
So would you okay going to your job now and working one day a week? Even if you got everything done?
I can work from my office, I can work from my home.
Yeah, and most
I
of us
done.
can, but you gotta, sometimes you have to have that face time, that presence.
It's not required. Truly not required.
Okay,
I think it's
you
required.
can't, you know what,
But
now,
if I say that I have to work 40 hours a week, it doesn't make it required. So I see what you're trying to solve, but I'm just
I
saying,
mean, there are plenty of jobs out there that are salaried positions in terms of pay, but it still says in their employment contract, this is a full-time position. And we expect you to be here a minimum of X number of hours a week.
right, if we want to,
There's plenty of jobs out
if we
there.
want to go there, I don't think that solves the problem. You're required to be in the office hours, but I don't think saying full-time, part-time does.
So I have a concern with requiring people to be in the office a certain number of hours. We're talking about somebody that already has a full-time job. They're going to, and then, runs for mayor, gets selected as mayor, and then, so they are taking on a part-time job on top of their full-time job. A good 90% of the work that they're going to be doing for the village is going to happen between 5 PM and 9 PM on weekdays and on weekends. So maybe like once a month, they're in their office on a Saturday, but 90% of their work is
I would
going to be at their house.
Maybe that's not the best person to run for mayor. They can't be here during the week.
Then you don't vote for them.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
don't vote for them,
Yes,
but
they are
at the
bad
same
mayor.
time,
Recall
So we're, okay.
All right, Jen, your turn.
so, two things. All along, every charter we've read, everything that we've talked about, we did not want to over-define, or we also did not want to hamstring the village or the council. Why are we not okay with letting the council decide what this person's defined hours are? That's my first question. My second question is, we can't do anything about what the current council does. We can't stop them if they want to vote to pay a mayor $75,000 a year. We can't keep them from doing that right now. We can't keep them from doing anything like that unless and until there's a charter. And even then, if they're stupid enough to do that, we still can't fix it because I feel like it's over-directed. If we tell the village it has to have a part-time mayor or it has to have a full-time, yes. Do I want a part-time mayor? Yes. Do I want to pay the mayor only $5 a month? Yes. I don't want the mayor paid anything at all. I think it should be, this person should be paid nothing because the administrator will be doing everything, or should be, right? That's my opinion. I don't want the mayor to be paid. I don't even want the mayor to show up, right? That's my opinion. But my opinion doesn't matter on this. The point here is, why are we trying to define this? When we said originally that it was the council's job to define this.
I want to, before we go any further, show of hands, who wants to define it, who does not? So who wants to define it as full-time or part-time in the charter?
I don't want to define it as full-time or part-time, I just want to set some standards with full-time.
charter.
In the charter.
Okay, so
If I'm the only one, then just move on.
So give us some examples of the standards that you're talking about.
Well, I see your point, but we're dictating a lot of other things that the council has to do.
But you're not responding to it, just give us some standards.
What is 20 hours, 40 hours, Monday through Friday, you have to be in the office to meet with people for 3 hours, 3 days a week, something like that. And those could equate to, if you're a full-time person, maybe it's 5 hours, Monday
So,
through Friday, you have to be here to be.
so Paul's not talking about money, Paul is talking about adding additional duties to this section of mayor. That's what he's talking about.
I think if you add the duties, it creates more of a structure, because right now, I don't even know. I mean, I can foresee in the future, if there was a part-time mayor that only worked in the evening, maybe that would be great, maybe that would be perfect for the village, but I don't know that for sure.
So you're concerned, so you would like them to say something like, the mayor shall hold regular weekly office
Yeah,
hours?
just something so that I know that the mayor is.
And if it's 1 hour, then so be it, at least it's posted.
Some people can come to something. Because I don't know that that exists. Maybe it exists now and I'm just wrong, but I don't see a method for that now.
Under Article 5, I wasn't writing. Under Article 5 mayor, it says, they'll be elected, candidates live here so long, and not go to any other public office. D says the office of mayor need not be a full-time position. Give consideration to do an E.
I would hope that it was a part-time position.
So it may not be full-time, is what it is. So
So what the way it reads
it
right now is that the office of mayor need not be a full-time position.
So,
Perhaps if.
Maybe you're right, maybe it's what council pick what they want to do and I'll move on.
I mean, we can,
And then I can start recall petitions for every single.
okay, so for the purpose of it being 8:15, do we want to?
look, if people really don't want to define it, then we should eliminate D. I think, I gotta be honest and say that I'm in agreement with Paul on fleshing out duties and powers and making some affirmative duties as to what the mayor shall do.
Okay, so can anybody who has ideas on that front, because I don't think it's a bad idea, make themselves regularly available under something. We could write that in as a duty. They have to make themselves available to the citizenry
You
somehow.
can't put that in these specifics around that because you don't know.
Well, but readily available is not specific, right?
Or
Having office
routinely
hours is.
available.
No, I wouldn't say regularly. So I mean, yeah, we advertise. So let's take that away as an action item to draft up something that says something like that.
I think that's toothless though. It's regularly available. Like, if we're gonna state something, we should state something. I'm against doing it, by the way, but if we're gonna state something, we should state something.
Well, I don't know if somebody come up with one that's the same, and we can look at it next week.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I just wanna.
And Paul, I
wanna feel
it
uncomfortable.
should be you, draw something up, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to discount the idea. I hear both sides, but I don't think we're making progress.
I don't think we discounted it. We did it 20 minutes of airtime.
I want to move on.
Oh, now I know that your internal clock is off too.
Every minute here, it's like a minute and a half to me.
That's all, it's like 5 hours for me.
All right, Shelley, you have a lot of homework. We know that you've got to follow up with Kim, and you're going to put safety information as well.
I was looking up safety information.
No, safety commission, you're going to research.
Safety commission.
Yes, I'm gonna look up safety commission, I'm gonna talk to Jim about it.
Yes.
I'm just gonna look for Kelly to see what that one in section 9 refers to.
Yeah.
You have all the homework, so I just want to make sure you have them. Okay, awesome.
Just want to make sure we all leave things on the table, because we had a vote, we started a vote, and then we said how many were in favor, and nobody raised their hand. Can we just finish that?
I don't remember what it said really.
I think regarding whether,
Oh, in favor of defining full-time or part-time.
Right.
Okay, show of hands, All in favor of defining the office of mayor as full-time or part-time? All opposed? Any abstains?
Thank you.
And you didn't vote at all.
I don't even know what, I couldn't try to figure out what the was for.
So I'm abstaining for lack of a better choice. I don't have an answer to that question myself yet.
We just found out.
We're not-
For the record.
It's not a binding vote. We're not making a decision. I would like a straw poll.
This is a-
Let's straw poll hands, yeah.
Even if it's unofficial.
Well, I brought it out as, can we go along it, and then didn't, he just wanted to close it for the record, and that's fine.
You just wanted to point
Made a
out.
mistake. No, he was keeping track of us, we were on track.
Yeah.
All right, so you got your homework, can you send us an updated copy of, okay, awesome.
Okay, we have a meeting Sunday?
We have a meeting Sunday.
I don't know. I'm iffy.
Who will be here if we have a meeting Sunday?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my thing. It's almost always me making an exception when I am here. So my busy life.
so you're saying there will be four of us and probably Sid.
Yeah, me and Ann.
You guys won't be here on Sunday?
And me and you?
Yeah.
Okay, I can tell it was a yes or no.
That was a.
It was a reluctant
That's
yes.
not verbal, ambivalence that you're picking up on your.
All right, who cannot be here? Okay.
Yeah, that's where I
I
am.
mean, to be honest, guys, I don't think that's enough to be here Sunday. Does anyone disagree with me?
No, it's not.
How many, how many Thursdays do we have left?
Virtually none.
Yeah.
There's a deadline.
Yeah,
June 20th.
that's correct.
So that is 1, 2, 3, 4.
If I meet with Rainey, like before next Thursday, I should be able to theoretically have probably 10 and 11, if not 10, 11, and 12 in draft form. We are obviously still arguing about a lot of nuances, but we have 4 Thursday meetings. We can hammer this out. We will be fine.
We'll have to do a couple of those where we stay here until we get it done.
I gotta be honest, for me personally with my schedule, I'd rather stay late on a Thursday night than come on a Sunday. My weekends get real packed real quick.
So I know Sunday is starting to hop in here, just with other people having the building. We've got through May, I'm sorry, Facebook feed, I think it's calendar. We've got May 19th. Ooh, cool, it's almost 25th. And we've got nothing on the June calendar so far for Sundays. Do we want to put something on the June calendar?
Oh, hey, next Thursday I can't be here. I'll be in Indianapolis.
Oh, you're a terrible person.
I am so sorry.
You were terrible. Well,
I just remembered that I looked at my phone and I leave that morning for Indianapolis.
well, but if you're
I
able
can
to
send
get with
you guys.
Brady
Yes.
before Thursday and hammer it
And I
out.
will send you the Word version under penalty of, if you screw it up, I'll hurt you.
I
And
mean, you'll have your versions.
yeah, it's true, I'll have the backup. That's,
Kelly, you can send it to me and I'll take notes.
oh, are you,
No,
You'll be
I'm
here?
not until Friday night.
okay.
Rainy. Do we have to have it in, good draft shape for council members to look at before they can vote on?
So they have to read it.
It needs to be done when we get it.
Done by meaning that our
Probably done by the
attorney has
meeting.
looked at it.
But they have no, they have no way to say that. Whatever we give them, they have to.
You can give them one sheet of paper and they have to vote for it.
I think what she's asking is we need to have something finished before the 20th to get to the attorney.
Yes. Yes,
Certainly.
we
So
have,
it's not really the 20th.
I'm gonna try really
It
hard to
is-
have 2, if not 3 of the remaining items done. I'm sorry, Jen.
no, it is the 20th, because there is a process. We do have to wait for them. They are gonna take the full 3 readings.
Yeah, so before we get to that, yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The 20th is the hard deadline. There's no extending that deadline.
We're trying to move forward.
Okay,
We're going to, okay, we're saying by the 13th, that these are the attorney now. we look-
And they won't do all 3 readings if they're on time because it's a shall not may.
Yeah, it is a shall not a may, so.
I know
The
that it's,
day before the deadline to get it to the,
They'll have a special meeting and
they'll
they'll
have a special meeting.
waive the readings and do all the things that I hate.
Right, and let's,
I mean, we would rather that.
It's not gonna come to
Well,
that.
it's not gonna come to that, we're not gonna go down that path.
but here's the problem is, I understand that this is a shall and not a may. I understand they have no choice but to say yes. We need to give them the time to do this because they are going to drag their feet and we need this to not be a pissing contest. And then in the end, have a council that refuse to meet in a special meeting. Because we've dicked around with this thing and not gotten.
But we're not
I
gonna do that.
I think that's not our intention.
Okay.
We also need to know
We're
that.
not gonna.
I know, what, so,
My hand.
same thing,
And
do we have any sense right now, do any of us have any sense of where council is on this charter? If they all hate it, that's 6 people with loud voices.
So,
So maybe we need to be scheduling a time for them to come here or us to go to them and try to get them over.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misinformation. And once they read it, maybe they want misinformation.
I don't know, maybe they all love it, but
No,
my
they don't.
suspicion is that they do not.
they don't, all of them currently will be voting no.
And that's a problem because that's not just one no vote, that's
No.
6 loud
And-
voices.
And
You're exactly right.
three of those people are going around and spreading misinformation. I know factually.
you know what misinformation is, right?
I don't know how many times,
Specific.
I've heard ceremonial mayor, I don't know how many times. From multiple
Weird,
people.
no, this is not a ceremonial
I
matter.
know.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We use the
that.
word ceremony somewhere. And me, on the call, somebody heard ceremony, because it's in there, it's in our card.
Yeah.
And so somebody's, this is gonna be ceremonial mayor, why are we doing that? Like, no, it's not ceremonial mayor. Read the chart.
Right.
Well,
Can
for
we
example,
say to the council to be on our side with this is, no offense to anyone listening in, probably more important than any town hall meeting we can have.
My expectation, though, was that the charter came about as a direct reaction to the election of a number of the current council members. So there are people who are never going to be on our side there. And I feel like all of this misinformation we're talking about now, spending time addressing, can be addressed after we give them the charter, after they approve it. We've got, what, three months to counteract this, right? So go and talk to people.
maybe there was a door.
We can hold hot dog eating contests.
Ooh.
What? Or pie.
You know, if you make it a pie eating contest, I would personally go around and fight people.
All right.
All right. There are people with homework, I think we all agree Sunday's not gonna happen this week.
Okay.
If everyone could look at their calendars for June and figure out if Sundays can't happen for them, or if we can start working later on Thursdays, let's figure that out.
If they go someday.
We're canceling this Sunday.
Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day's not in the schedule.
No, you have to be here under threat of death.
We'll
I
get
can't even make it Thursday. I think.
I'll be here Thursday. Can't
I
promise
will,
Friday.
I will send the Word document to you or Soraya.
Alright, so, anything else before we adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, everybody.
Ryan, how's Dan?
And what you do?
Not tonight, I have to leave.
I personally don't have files with this.
Okay.
On your house, it says
So I
you
got some
excited, but it
recommendations
wasn't
here.
even have to do with that. And
So we passed out 6,000 tablets to childcare providers.
so.